Going back to the Jefferson conversation, Luke, one guy who I've really been impressed with stepping up in his absence, Mr. Brandon Powell, an afterthought when he was signed, a camp body, a player that would be on the fringes of the 53-man roster. And yet, here he is. He's been an impact wide receiver. In several games, he's been your second best option at wide receiver. And I even wonder, Luke, when Jefferson comes back, how much they're going to keep him in the rotation because of how well he's played. You've got KJ Osborne, obviously, to get snaps. You've got Powell. You've got Addison. What do you think about Brandon Powell's emergence in this offense?
Man, I remember back in training camp, right? The first week, the first 10 days, it was the Jalen Nailor show. Those last 2 weeks, people forget. You came back from practice twice a week on this show, and you said, this Brandon Powell guy, man, he keeps producing. He keeps making big catches, big plays. Listen, nobody loves KJ Osborne more than you and I do. I mean, you were one of the first people on the KJ train. 5th-round pick from Miami, works his way up, grinds his way through special teams, practice squad, all that, works his way onto the first team, finds a way to make plays when given opportunities. Another great day 3 find from the Spielman regime that you've got your money's worth out of exponentially at this point. Having said that, you look at his production the last 3 years, 2021, 655 yards, 2022, 650 yards. This year, 2023. And yes, I know he's missed a few games, but currently on pace for 614 yards. So we all love KJ. I mean, he definitely gives fans a sense, a vibe of the Jarius Wright role as that wide receiver 3. And I think there'll always be a place for him on any team. All 32 teams he plays for as that 3rd, maybe 4th guy without a doubt. But I also think it's fair to have a real discussion about the fact that he may be kind of plateauing a bit, especially when you look at the stats and that we kind of know who he is and who he isn't more so at this point. There's definitely a ceiling to his game, in my opinion, physically, athletically. He's kind of maxed out in that sense. And I'm not saying Brandon Powell gives you anything extra or more than he does athletically, but I do think if there's a plan to let KJ Osborne walk next year, which it feels like there is, if that's already in the works, maybe it's wise to see exactly what you got with Powell as the number 3 guy for a few games to see if you think he could be that guy next year for 2024, because you don't want to get to the offseason, Sam, and still be unsure, still have questions, right? You want to have your mind made up already. And so I think you do have to give him a fair share of looks and snaps in that role so you can make a fair assessment and evaluation, not so much for this year, but for next year and beyond. Because Powell, I mean, he's earned the right to be on the field. I know that. He's made enough plays in this offense. But whether it's KJ or Powell up first when JJ gets back, I don't know. I don't really care. I'd expect things to at least start back out the same way as they were before the first week or two. But by season's end, I do hope we at least get a few looks at JJ number 1, Addison number 2, and Powell number 3, all on the field together, healthy, running at full speed. So the coaches, the front office, even the fans know they got a snapshot, so to speak, of what it could look like next year if they want to bring him back to replace KJ Osborne, if in fact he does leave in free agency. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I mean, for a wide receiver question like this, we got to bring in the wide receiver himself, Ron Johnson. He's at 3 Ron Johnson on X. He hosts the Ron Johnson Show here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Ron, coming to us from beautiful Des Moines, Iowa. Welcome in. We're just talking about wide receiver depth and tossing around the idea of, hey, KJ Osborne's a free agent. You might have to extend Jefferson, so you probably have to operate at a budget with the rest of your receivers. Jordan Addison comes cheap, rookie contract. Maybe Brandon Powell is an option for the future going forward. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Powell has to be consistent, and I think that's the key is like, can he continuously do this the rest of the season? We saw flashes of speed, the one slant kind of tunnel route he caught and got vertical extremely fast. He didn't go north and south. He kind of Tyreek Hilled a bit and stuck his foot in the ground and just, I mean, he was moving at a different speed than the rest of the defenders. And so if he can do that every single week moving forward, I could easily see them parting ways with KJ Osborne because of Jordan Addison, because of Justin Jefferson, because of TJ Hockenson. Honestly, there's no room for 4. There is room for 3. And I think the 3 are Addison, Jefferson, Hockenson. The fourth guy usually has to be a guy of value. And when I say a value, of money value as well as on the field value. And I think Brandon Powell does that. He also is your punt returner. He can also return kicks if you need them. And so I think that's the key, is like he's kind of taking KJ's spot as punt returner. KJ on the field hasn't done a ton this season that we thought we'd see, because Jordan Addison is what we thought he would be. There was times where you just didn't know, because Justin Jefferson was getting it all, and then all of a sudden he goes out, and then you see kind of a little bit of an emergence of TJ Hawkinson with Jordan Addison. You throw Justin Jefferson back in there, they do have a true three-way threat of any three of these guys can make a big play. And then Brandon Powell just becomes your additional jet sweep guy, your choice route guy. And then you saw it. You saw him in late moments being wide open when it's 3rd and long, catching the ball, getting up the field, and getting some necessary yards. So, yeah, from a dollar standpoint, the fact that KJ Osborne probably can go somewhere else and get paid a little bit more than he would with the Vikings, I could see that happening.